Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, pizza fans of all ages. My name is Mike, and welcome to Pizza Man Mario. And we have another Nickelodeon All Star Brawl discussion video for today. This is going to be quite an interesting one. Now, we still don't know what the future for this game consists of. You know, if we're going to get crossplay finally, get some more characters, stages, modes, alternate costumes, etc. But today, I decided to once again play the role of the developers and come up with a full fantasy roster of fighters. A roster consisting of 100 total fighters. Yes, 100. Now, I know what you're going to say, oh, there's no way they're going to add 100 fighters in this game. That's impossible. Well, first of all, this is a fantasy roster for a reason. This is not supposed to be realistic. And second of all, who says I'm talking about the first game specifically? This could also be for the possible sequel, or if this becomes like a full series where we get more games afterwards, like with the kart racing games. You know, they just keep adding to the roster as the games go by, until eventually we get to 100 fighters. You ever think of that? Anyway, this roster is going to consist of, well, first of all 25 characters currently in Nickelodeon All Star Brawl. There's also going to be some characters coming in from the Nickelodeon Kart Racers games. I decided to kind of combine both rosters into one, you know? There's going to be some newcomers, obviously, and also some Nick Jr. and guest characters sprinkled in. Like I've mentioned in the past, I'm not against the idea of Nick Jr. getting representation in the game for some variety onto the roster. And guest characters, if it is possible to do, then I say go for it. As long as the characters make sense, you know, they have some kind of history with Nickelodeon. And I believe all the guest characters I added here have some kind of history with Nickelodeon. And that's about everything this roster consists of. So without further ado, let's not waste any more time, and y'all take a seat, get comfortable, grab your snacks and beverages, and let's get started as I reveal my fantasy roster for Nickelodeon All Star Brawl right about now. And there it is, my 100 character full fantasy roster. Now technically there are 96 character slots in this picture here, but there are 100 unique fighters, and I'll explain how when we get to certain characters on the list. Now, this took me about 2 weeks to put together, and I'm pretty happy with how it came out. Now there are probably some characters that I'm missing on the roster, and some characters I wanted to put in here, but I didn't because I don't want to go too crazy with my fantasy. But I think for the time being, I'm happy with this roster. It could always change from here and there, like if I decide to change out somebody. Not that I'm going to do an updated video or anything, but well, maybe I could, I don't know. But for now, I think I'm happy with this list. So, we're going to go down the roster, talk about all the new coming characters that I added and why I added them, until we get to the end. So, we start off at the top with SpongeBob, obviously. You know, the mascot of Nickelodeon. We got SpongeBob, Patrick, Sandy, obviously already in the roster. And then we have Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Plankton, Larry the Lobster, and Squidina as the newcomers from SpongeBob. Yeah, I give SpongeBob 8 total characters. Might be too much to some people, but if any franchise is going to have most amount of characters on the roster, it's going to be SpongeBob. Because, you know, like I said, it's an mascot of Nickelodeon. So anyway, Squidward, self-explanatory, he needs to be in this roster. Like one of the missing characters we have. You know, I don't think I need to say anything about Squidward or why he should be in this game. Mr. Krabs, probably the same. I mean, I don't know if he's actually a missing character, but I say he's a character you could use in the game. I think he'd be a good addition to the roster. And plus, there was that leak about him a while back. Well, I'm pretty sure that was fake. But that's not to say he shouldn't be in the roster anyway. And then Plankton, to add a villain to the roster. As I said multiple times, we need more villains in this game. And Plankton, I don't know how they would do it. They could put him maybe with Karen, or put him in a robot of some kind. Or they can just make him big like in Nicktoons Globs of Doom. I don't know, but somehow I think Plankton should be playable to add a villain, and one of the most iconic villains in Nickelodeon. You know what I'm saying? Next up, you have Larry the Lobster. Now, Larry's here is kind of like a filler spot, I guess you can say. Kind of felt the SpongeBob character roster. I wanted to put the Flying Dutchman originally, but he already has his own stage and there's a stage cameo, so probably can't do that. But Larry probably could have an interesting moveset either way. You know, he's a bodybuilder, he's always lifting weights. Maybe he can have some interesting moves with him. So yeah. And then last we have Squidina. This will probably start running into some controversy with this list, because like, oh, the SpongeBob spin-offs, no! You know, Squidina, she was in Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3, so like I said before, I want to combine both Nickelodeon All Star Brawl's roster and Kart Racing Games roster into one, so that's why Squidina is here. Plus, you know, Squidina wasn't only in the Patrick Star show, she was in the original show too, on the episode Goons on the Moon. So, keep that in mind. That's why Squidina is basically here to like fill in the Nickelodeon Kart Racers side of the roster. Maybe we'll do a video on her someday, I don't know. My DLC Ideas series. And that's it for the SpongeBob cast. I was going to talk about the Avatar cast. It also has a lot of characters from it. So we have Aang, and we have Toph over there too. Obviously they're both in the game already. And in between them I added Katara and Sokka, who I did a double feature video on about a week or two ago, I want to say. I don't know, somewhere between the last 2 or 3 weeks. You know, with Avatar being one of Nickelodeon's most popular IPs, it wouldn't be too unlikely to see more Avatar reps join the roster. You know, Katara and Sokka, you put all of Team Avatar together, you know? Speaking of Team Avatar, we have, starting second row, the late entry to Team Avatar, Zuko. Now Zuko, he's one of my most wanted characters for the roster currently. I would love to see him join the game, especially because we have air, earth, and water to represent Avatar in this game, but nothing to represent fire. You know, who better than Zuko, right? Or the next character I have here. But mostly Zuko, I feel. Speaking of that next character, we have Azula. You know, Azula, again, to add another villain to the roster, which this game really needs. I think Azula could be a good one as well. She can have some interesting moves in her moveset. It was kind of debated whether or not it should be Zuko or Azula representing the Fire Nation in this game. Well, I say, let's put them both in. Why not? And finally, we have Korra, who's already in the game, obviously. Let's move on to the TMNT side of things. You know, we have Leonardo and Michelangelo already in the game. In between them, we have Donatello and Raphael. You know, for obvious reasons, get all 4 of the turtles in there. Kind of weird how they're not all in there already, but whatever. Next, we have Master Splinter, who's a character that I kind of have an interest in joining the roster, ever since I got a request for him a while back. You know, we talk about, like, where's Donatello? Where's Raphael? I mean, yeah, they should be in the game, but what about Master Splinter? I kind of like the idea of him joining the roster as well. You know, have the Master fight the turtles on the battlefield, you know? And plus, he was playable in TMNT Shredder's Revenge. You know who else is playable in that game? April O'Neil, who happens to be in Nickelodeon All Star Brawl. Huh? I believe this next character is also playable in TMNT Shredder's Revenge, that being Casey Jones. Now, Casey Jones, kind of a similar position to Larry, kind of a filler pick a little bit, but I think it could be a fun character. And I like Casey Jones, you know, he's a pretty interesting character. He can have a nice little moveset with like all of his weapons and stuff, like the hockey sticks and whatnot. Don't knock it till you try it. And of course we have Shredder already in the game. And we have Cat Dog randomly there as part of the roster already. And then we move on to some Loud House characters. 5 of them, in fact. We have Lincoln and Lucy already in the roster, obviously. And then we have Luna Loud, another one of Lincoln's siblings. And probably my favorite out of all of them. Yeah, I do like Luna. I like her character. And she has some of my favorite episodes in the show that I've seen so far. And I think she has a lot of moveset potential. Her and Luann, I think, do. I would have put Luann on this list, but I ended up not putting on her. I kind of got replaced by 2 other Loud House characters. But yeah, Luna Loud, I'd also like to see in this game. I mean, not one of my top favorites, but I think she'd be a pretty fun character. Tad. Next we have Clyde McBride, aka Lincoln's best friend. He was in Kart Racers 2 and 3, so why not put him in All Star Brawl as well? I don't know what his moveset could be. Try to come up with something maybe at a later date, I don't know. But hey, we can put Clink and McCloud together to team up, take on all these characters here. You know, they can do battle with Leonardo, Michelangelo or something, I don't know. And finally, we have Ronnie Ann. You know, think about Loud House characters. We think about like Luna Loud or Luann, maybe even Clyde, but why not Ronnie Ann, you know? I think that could be something interesting. You know, represent both Loud House and the Casa Grandes. You know, we can have a stage based off the Casa Grande's house or something. And I think Ronnie Ann could have an interesting moveset too. I might probably do her at some point as well. In my DLC Ideas series, I don't know, but yeah, I'm not against the idea of having Ronnie Ann join. You know, battle Lincoln and whatnot. I also move on to the cast of Jimmy Neutron. Starting off with the boy genius himself, Jimmy Neutron. Got replaced by his father in the roster. I don't think I need to say why Jimmy needs to be in this game. It's pretty obvious. He's missing. So we're just going to move on to Carl, Sheen, and Cindy. Now, Carl and Sheen... Oh, obviously Hugh's already in the roster. But Carl and Sheen, you know, for meme purposes, I think they can join the game. You know, this game likes to have meme characters. That's why we got Power Toastman and Hugh, for instance. You know, Carl and Sheen, I think, can provide that meme stat as well. Especially Carl. Maybe he can attack with croissants, maybe. And Sheen, you know, be kind of goofy character. Maybe have some references to Planet Sheen, even. I mean, I know people don't like Planet Sheen, but doesn't mean it can't still be referenced in the game, you know? For Sheen's moveset or stage, maybe. And then Cindy, she was in Kart Racers 3, so gotta bring her over here as well. And she honestly would have been my secondary pick for Jimmy Neutron character after Jimmy. Her and another character we'll talk about in a bit. With Cindy, I think she has tons of moveset potential. You know, we can finally have Jimmy battle Cindy. You know, Jimmy gets revenge for all the time Cindy's pushed him around, you know. Then we have Ultra Lord, you know, to battle Powdered Toast Man. Yeah, it's kind of self-explanatory. And then Professor Calamitous, the other secondary character I would have added for Jimmy Neutron, along with Cindy. Professor Calamitous to add a villain to the roster once again. I think it have an instant moveset. You know, like, I don't want to say too much about all these characters, because I don't want this video to be like 2 hours long. You know, we're already reaching like the 13-minute mark, I want to say, including my intro. We're not even halfway through this list yet. So I'm going to try to make these as brief as possible, but still try to give a good explanation as to why I included these characters in the roster. Anyway, next up for the fourth row, we have 4 characters from the Fairly OddParents franchise. Now, yes, I know the Fairly OddParents might not be able to make it into the game because of the whole Nirvana trash. But like I said before, this is a fantasy roster, so I can put in whoever I want, pretty much, as long as they make sense. You know, we all know we need Fairly OddParents representation in this game. And like I said before, if we can get Sora, Steve, and Banjo-Kazooie into Smash Brothers, there's no reason why we can't get Fairly OddParents, a Nickelodeon IP in a Nickelodeon crossover game. Especially recently you have Timmy Turner in Super Brawl Universe and Nickelodeon Extreme Tennis. No matter what kind of restrictions there are for mobile games. Anyway, we have Timmy, the Crimson Chin, Vicky, and Crocker. Timmy, self-explanatory, main protagonist, gotta have him in there. Crimson Chin, let's do battle with Powered Toastman, Ultra Lord. And have the 3 superheroes of Nickelodeon Universe battle each other, I guess. And then Vicky and Crocker to add more villains to the roster. We can finally have Timmy get revenge on Vicky for torturing him with all his babysittings. And Crocker is one of my most wanted villains. Gotta have him in there. I did a video on him recently as well. And then we have Hey Arnold representation. We have Arnold and Gerald. Arnold, I still don't understand why he's not in the game yet. But he should be in there. I don't care if he's a pacifist. I mean, that shouldn't apply to this kind of a game. Plus, Arnold was in Super Brawl Universe, so if he can be in that game, he can be here too. Just saying. And then Gerald, he was in Nickelodeon Kart Racers 2 and 3, so let's bring him all the way over here too. You know, have Lincoln and Clyde versus Arnold and Gerald. Tell me you wouldn't want to see that. It's like a dream match. You know, that'd actually be an interesting crossover, to be honest. Loud House and Hey Arnold. I don't know. I think that kind of makes sense a little bit. However. And then we have Helga already in the roster, obviously. And then we got Rugrats representation with Reptar already in the game. And then we have Tommy Pickles. I don't know if you could tell, but yeah, I put him in the Reptar wagon. He could fight in that, so he wouldn't have to beat up the baby himself. Not sure if that's any better, but better than having to punch a baby in the face, you know? He could be the Bowser Jr. of the game, you know what I'm saying? Speaking of Bowser Jr., for Tommy's alts, he could probably have the other Rugrats in there, like Chucky, Angelica, and Susie. You know, if I had more, you could probably add Phil and Lil, Kimmy, even Dill, probably. Have all the Rugrats in there fighting in the Reptile Wagon. You know, like different colors of the Reptile Wagon to tell the difference between each of the Rugrats, you know? I'd be down for that. Moving on from Rugrats, we have Danny Phantom, starting off with Danny himself, already in the game. And then we have Vlad, Plasmius, and Skulker. 2 villains to add to the roster. You know, Vlad, one of my most wanted villains as well. And Skulker, I think he could be interesting as well. You know, he's a ghost hunter. Probably have some interesting gadgets for his moveset. You know? Why not? I would have put in Ember, but you know, we already have a guitar player in this roster, being Luna Loud, so I didn't put Ember in there. And maybe Ember could still be in there, I don't know. Moving on to the 5th row, as we're now halfway through the roster. We have Invader Zim characters. We got Zim already in the game. And we have Gur and Deb. Now, Gur is already part of Zim's moveset, I know, but if they ever wanted to change Zim's moveset, like a sequel possibly, they can like give him a different move and have Gur be in the roster. And I think that was actually the original plan for Gur, and that's why Gur has his own spot on the title screen. I mean, that's what I heard. I don't know if that's true or not. Yeah, why not make Gur his own separate fighter, you know? You know, fix up Zim's moveset, give him different moves, and have Gur be his own character. I think that'd be pretty interesting. And then Dib, he's a runner-up in my top 10 most wanted characters list, because I think Dib would be a great addition to the roster as well. You know, have different gadgets for his moveset, you know, fight Zim, you know, one-on-one, finally get his revenge on him, I guess. Then we have Rocco and Heifer from Rocco's Modern Life. Rocco's already in the game, and Heifer using Kart Racers 2, not in the 3rd one for some reason. Well, at least as a playable character. So might as well bring him over to All Star Brawl as well. Or they can even add Filbert if they wanted to as well. Then we have Ren and Stimpy and Power Toastman already in the game. Then we have Eliza Thornberry from the Wild Thornberries, you know, main protagonist, missing from the roster, like Arnold. You can probably get in here too. We have Nigel Thornberry already in the roster. And then we have Jenny from My Life as a Teenage Robot, already in the game. And then we have Vexus next to her, another runner-up in my top 10 most wanted characters list currently. I'd like to see Vexus make it into the game as well. Another villain they can add to the roster. That'd be nice. We have the Angry Beavers, currently in my top 10 list. I definitely want to see them get in here. Another duo fighter to take on Ren and Stimpy and Cat Dog, you know. I've already done a video on them, so I don't need to say too much about them, I feel. Starting in row 6, we have Otto and Reggie Rocket from Rocket Power. I want to say Rocket Power character again in the game. Rocket Power character in general is my top 10. You know, Otto or Reggie, I'm fine with either one. But for this list, I decided, you know what? Let's throw them both in there. Why not? I mean, I like them both, so we can have them fight alongside each other or against each other, whatever. Next up, we have 2 characters from Tough Puppy, a show that I've never actually seen before, but I wanted to add as many Nicktoons as possible, so I'd include Tough Puppy as well. You know, Dudley Puppy is the main protagonist, so that's why he's here, and the kitty cat's well. I believe she's a fan favorite character in the Nickelodeon community in general, so might as well add her as well. Plus, both of these characters were playable in Nicktoons MLB, so yeah. Next up, we have Oblina, already in the roster, and then joining her are Ickis and Crumb. You'll have all 3 of the monsters in there from our Real Monsters. I'm sorry, Real Monsters. I would have made into like a Pokemon trainer character, but you know, I kind of have that saved for somebody else. You'll find out who that is later. And next up, we have Garfield already in the game. Then we have Odie next to him. He's in Kart Racers 3, so we'll bring him over here as well. Have him get revenge on Garfield for all the times he kicked him off of tables, you know. Next we have Rudy and Snap, another duo fighter, another one of my most wanted characters. And I really think Rudy and Snap can have a really fun moveset. We have Rosalina and Luma of the game. We have El Tigre, you know, another character that is a fan favorite. You know, we'll use him in the game. And I guess in a way, he's another superhero character you can add, along with Crimson Chin, Power Toastman, and Ultra Lord. He's also part villain too, so I guess that'll be even more interesting. Next up we have Henry and June from Kablam. Kind of a sleeper pick for the roster, I feel. Imagine what kind of stuff they can pull from Kablam for Henry and June. And I feel like they can be like a Pyro and Mithra like character. We can switch between them, you know, during battle. That'd be interesting to see. And next we have, starting off row 7, Tak from Tak and the Power of Juju. Technically he could be in the game because, you know, he was a video game character originally. This is a video game. You know, he's a Nickelodeon IP, so let's put Tak in the game. I don't see why not. You have a pretty interesting moveset. You know, all his Juju powers and whatnot. Although I heard Nickelodeon doesn't actually own the rights to Tak anymore. I could be wrong, but that's what I heard. But feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. So maybe he can't join the roster. I don't know. Then we have Otis from Back of the Barnyard. Another kind of meme kind of character. I think he'd be an interesting character to the roster as well. I mean, I like Back of the Barnyard, you know. I don't know if that's unpopular to say, but I did like the show when I was a kid. You know, he could be fun as well. Next we have Harvey Beaks from the show of the same name. Harvey Beaks, one of the few modern Nickelodeon shows, doesn't have a large hate base around it. At least until after it got cancelled, because you know, Nickelodeon viewers, they only care about shows after they get cancelled. And let's be honest here, we're not talking about that now. Because of Harvey Beaks' popularity, I think they can add Harvey into the game. I probably could have put in Foo and Fee. I think that's their names. I don't know. I haven't seen that much of Harvey Beaks myself. I'd like to though someday. You know, I stuck with Harvey for now. Now we have Bessie from the Mighty Bee. A show that I do remember watching, but I don't remember a whole lot of today. It's one of those kind of shows for me. You know, for the sake of adding more Nicktoons in this roster, let's add Mighty Bee. Give the Mighty Bee some love, you know? Speaking of giving love to some other Nicktoons, we have Vendetta from Making Fiends. Now Vendetta, I said before, I think is another sleeper pick for the roster. I think she'd be a really interesting addition. I did a whole video on her as well, my DLC Ideas series. You know, I like Making Fiends. It's a really cool show. And I want to see that show get some more love. So when I put Vendetta in Nickelodeon All Star Brawl. Come on, developers, make it happen. Next up, we have Parker J. Cloud from Middlemost Post. One of Nickelodeon's newest IPs. And another show that I really do enjoy. Like, I really like Middlemost Post. And I wish it got more attention as well. But again, Nickelodeon viewers, they only care about shows after they get cancelled. Now, Parker, I think has limitless potential for a moveset. Because he's a shape-shifting cloud. He can form with all kind of different like objects, like a hammer or a fist or something to attack his opponents. It'd be really cool. I want to do a video on him at some point as well for my DLC Ideas series, so I guess kind of a spoiler, but look forward to that in the future. Next up we have the Cat Scratch Trio, Gordon, Waffle, and Mr. Blick. This is what I was talking about before with the Pokemon trainer-like character. I think Cat Scratch can fit the bill. And plus, I really do like Cat Scratch as well, and I like to see that show get some more love. You know, put him in the game. Next up, we have 4 duo characters to join Cat Dog, Red and Stimpy, and the Angry Beavers, and Rooney and Snap. We have Fanboy and Chum Chum, Sanjay and Craig. We'll talk about those two together, actually, because I might run into some controversy with that as well. Because, you know, those are 2 of the most infamous Nickelodeon shows ever made. Like I said before, I want as many Nicktoons as possible, even the hated ones. And I've always had this motto where it doesn't matter who makes it into the roster as long as they're fun to play as. And I think that can apply to Fanboy and Chum Chum and Sanjay and Craig as well. You know, they could have some fun movesets, you never know. I mean, Sanjay and Craig could easily be like the Banjo-Kazooie of the game or something. I mean, I don't know much about Sanjay and Craig, but I can imagine they could be kind of like Banjo-Kazooie. And Fanboy and Chum Chum, they could probably throw Frosty Freezy Freezes at their opponents. And to be somewhat fair, I have seen Fanboy and Chum Chum on fan polls in the past for this game. And there was recently a vindication for the show, and some people have actually grown to like the show for what it is. So I don't think it'd be too upsetting for a lot of people if Fanboy and Chum Chum join the roster. Still upsetting for a lot of people, not myself after all, but yeah. Then we have Annie and Pony from It's Pony, and Robot and Monster from, well, Robot and Monster. 2 other Nicktoons that I really do enjoy. I'd like to see get more love. I mean, you could probably argue that It's Pony and Minimalist Post might be too new to have representation, but I don't care. This is my fantasy roster, so I can put them however I want, as long as it makes sense, you know? Next up, we have High Five and Miko from Glitch Tex, another fan favorite modern Nicktoon, and for good reason. That show's fantastic. Originally, I was gonna put Miko only, but you know, I decided let's put in High Five as well. You know, we'll get both Glitch Tex duo members in there. You know, they can operate like Zelda and Sheik and Pyra and Mithra, just like Henry and June I mentioned earlier. I'd be happy with that. I mean, Miko is already one of my most wanted characters for the game. You know, if she came with High Five, we can switch between them. That makes it even better. Moving on to the final row, we have the Nick Jr. and guest characters. Starting off with Doug, who classifies as a guest character and Nickelodeon character. Because as we know, Disney stole Doug from Nickelodeon. Yes, I said stole, I'm not taking that back. You know, if they can somehow get Doug in Nickelodeon All Star Brawl, or Nickelodeon game in general, I say take it. You know, Doug, one of the 3 original Nicktoons. It'd be nice to see him come home to the NCU, you know? It may never happen, but like I said before, this is my fantasy. I need to crush a man's dream. I mean, I don't crush your dreams when you dream for Nintendo Switch Pro or anything, even though it's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, moving on to the Nick Jr. side of things. We have Dora and Swiper from Dora the Explorer. I did a video on these 2 a while back as well. I mentioned that no matter what you think about Dora the Explorer, it's hard to argue that it's not a well-known Nick Jr. show, if not the most well-known Nick Jr. show. So when talking about Nick Jr. shows represented in Nickelodeon All Star Brawl, you have to put Dora in that conversation, you know? You know, Dora I think could be interesting, and Swiper I would really like to see as well. Another villain to add to the roster, because he's technically a villain. Yeah, why not? Next up we have Blue from Blue's Clues, my personal favorite Nick Jr. show, even though one of my subscribers hates it with a burning passion. You know, that's his opinion, he's free to have it. Yeah, I would like to see Blue in the game. I think she would be a really fun character as well. You know, Blue's Clues is another popular Nick Jr. show. They'll probably have to have some representation as well when we talk about Nick Jr. characters joining the roster. You know? Next we have Wubsy from Wow Wow Wubsy. I'm actually pretty curious on how Wubsy could play in Nickelodeon All Star Brawl. I think he'd be kind of another sleeper pick, maybe. Especially talking about Nick Jr. characters. Imagine him being able to bounce on his tail like as an attack, like he was pogo stick. Being able to like swing his tail in like all kind of different shapes, you know, to attack his opponents. It'd be kind of interesting to see. Plus, I really liked Wow Wow Wubsy as a kid. That kind of played a factor in this choice as well. Next up, we have Chase from Paw Patrol. Paw Patrol, another well-known, popular Nick Jr. show. I think you might as well add representation from that show in here as well. You know, Chase, I think, is like the main character or something. So I had to pick him, you know. Next up, we have Bloom from Winx Club. It was kind of a last-minute addition to the roster. You know, I watched Palblog Gaming's video he did yesterday on Bloom. The time this video was supposed to be going up. That kind of made me want to put Bloom in this roster. I think she'd be a pretty interesting character as well. You know, Winx Club has history with Nickelodeon. It had his revived series there. You know, Bloom can represent both Nick Jr. and guest characters in a way. Speaking of guest characters, we have all the remaining guest characters that I have in this roster. Starting off with Kappa Mikey, who I think counts as a guest character. I mean, I know the show did air on Nicktoons Network, but I don't think Kappa Mikey is a Nick IP, you know? I think it only just aired on Nicktoons Network, my bad. It would be cool to see Kappa Mikey return in some kind of fashion, especially if Mikey came into Nickelodeon All Star Brawl. We can have Michelangelo versus Kappa Mikey, the battle of the mics, you know? And if I join the roster, I can battle them both too, you know? Alright, we're getting down to the last 4. We have Skipper from Penguins of Madagascar, or Madagascar to put it simply. I made a video on him recently as well. I think if any guest character made it into this game, Skipper had to be one of them, along with the next character that you're going to see on the list. You know, Penguins of Madagascar is an official Nicktoon, so it would make a lot of sense to have Skipper join the roster. Same case for Poe from Kung Fu Panda, as Kung Fu Panda also had a show on Nickelodeon, Kung Fu Panda Legends of Awesomeness, which I've never seen, but yeah. Poe, he's a fighter. You get him instant moveset. And I also have Tai Lun from Kung Fu Panda to add another villain to the roster. The more the merrier, right? We need more villains in the game. So Tai Lun, I welcome you as well. You could probably be fun too. And last but not least, we have Goku from Dragon Ball Z. Yes, I even added Goku on this list. And, he was brought up a few times to be a guest character. Because, Dragon Ball's had a show on Nicktoons at one point, Dragon Ball Kai. So technically, Dragon Ball does have history with Nickelodeon. So I don't think it would be too weird to see Goku in this game. Although it'd be pretty unlikely we'd ever see him there. But, as I said multiple times, this is a fantasy roster. It's not real, so don't take it too seriously. And plus, who wouldn't want to play as Goku in a platform fighting game? I mean, technically you could already in Smash Flash 2 and Smash Crusade, but you know what I mean. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my fantasy roster for Nickelodeon All Star Brawl. Like I said, I'm happy with how this turned out. I know I'm missing some Nicktoons, like As Told by Ginger and the X's, and even ones like Pig Banana Cricket or Bunsen a Beast, but, the latter two shows I know a lot of people don't like anyway, so I guess it's not a huge loss in that regards, but I don't know. But I still think this roster came out pretty good. I think there's something for everybody here. Even if you don't agree with some of the choices, you're going to find some people you want to probably main. Yeah, I had a lot of fun working on this list. I don't know how well it fits the All-Star cast, but could be good, So now, I'm going to go ahead and ask you guys. Question of the video. What does your 100-character fantasy roster for Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl look like? I'm sure some of you are going to have different lists than mine. Don't just thought about my list anyway. And that wraps up this Nickelodeon All Star Brawl discussion video. Just gonna wrap up Nickelodeon All Star Brawl videos for this month in general. Look forward to more in May. When I can just get the courage to try out my Switch again. Make sure to still play my physical games. Maybe I'll do more CPU tournaments and random match videos. Who knows? But for right now, it's time for me to hit the road. That's gonna be it for today's video. Did you like it? If you did, give me a solid and punch the like button below like a piece of dough. And if this is your first time on this channel, and you like what you saw, and you want to come back for more, hit that subscribe button to become a member of the Pizza Man Mario Party today. Share it out with your friends, your boyfriends, your girlfriends, or whoever you want to share with. Hit that bell and turn notifications so you can be the first one to see all upcoming videos. Have a bit of time, leave a comment. Until next time, this is your boy Mike signing out. So, peace out, y'all, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. So we're to look back knowing that the posters are different here.